Yeah, I didn't get that before. It's saying this is being
Yeah,
recorded.
yeah, now we're good. All right. So as we work through the kinks on this edition of BYP with Q, Rich Quinones here. Lloyd Vance kind enough to join us on this Tuesday. We're working out the kinks. Sometimes we got to remodel the studios. We got to delete space. We got to figure out some storage. But anyway, BYP on a Tuesday brought to you by our good friends at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Check the link below, BYP20 for 20% off your first purchase. Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. All right, as we do take two on this Tuesday. Last night, Monday Night Football, biggest surprise: Jacksonville's ineptness on offense, or Washington going on the road and defeating Cincinnati?
Oh, Q, I'd have to say the biggest surprise would have to be the Washington Commanders. You know, they're 7.5 point underdog going in there, and we just figured, okay, Cincinnati have started 0-2 the last 3 years, and they're going to get right in this game. They know 0-3 is probably a death sentence to their season.
Mhm.
Only 6 teams have made the playoffs since 1980 after starting that mark. Last Texans in 2018. So there was desperation in the air. They did put up a lot of points, but Washington, to their credit, particularly Jayden Daniels, answered them over and over again, and he willed his team to victory. I mean, he was spectacular in this one, Q. And I said he was going to be my rookie of the year candidate going into this season,
You
and
did.
not Caleb Williams. And this young man has lived up to the hype. They're buying into what Dan Quinn is putting out there. And don't forget about Cliff Kingsbury, their offense coordinator.
No, it's a great point. We both like Daniels. We weren't the biggest believers. Well, at least I wasn't in Williams. And then conversely, you look at the earlier game, Jacksonville just getting rolled last night. That's embarrassing. You go on the road, you lose 47-10. The offense has been basically flat for 3 weeks. They're questioning Trevor Lawrence. You can't go to Mac Jones. Doug Peterson under fire. We know they have a couple London trips coming up. Uh, I mean, where do you go now if you're Jacksonville?
Yeah, that was a terrible loss, Q. Losing 47-10, and it's a laugher at the end where all the third and fourth stringers are in for the Bills, and they're kind of but they're just having a great time. And Josh Allen, who's now uh, pretty big favorite for MVP. I think he's plus 250 on the lines in most books. He's looking very comfortable, winning at his team, leading him to victory. And the thing is, on the other side, you talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Doug Peterson better be feeling some heat because, as I said, in a couple of weeks, they're going to be going over to England and they're going to play back-to-back games in week 6 and week 7 over there against Chicago and New England. So we've seen it before. Some of these coaches don't make it back from that long trip, and if they don't play well over there, Shad Khan, their owner, who's not very patient guy, he may have to change some things. And the biggest thing with them is their offensive line, particularly Cam Robinson, their outside tackle, is just not protecting Trevor Lawrence, and he did not look comfortable back there. Not a lot of rushing lanes for ATN, and the Jaguars have a lot of work to do.
Not a bad Sunday early for some of the dogs winning outright. Obviously, the Jets get to win on Thursday night at home. The Giants go on the road, and in spite of the early turnovers and the ineptness of one Deshaun Watson, finally get a win. Daniel Jones look comfortable. Packers with a backup, nice win. Little surprise that Minnesota, well, a lot surprised Minnesota. You talk about an MVP candidate slinging Sammy Darnold. They put up 34 against the Texans. Now all of a sudden get humbled. They were looking to go to 3-0. Minnesota 3-0. Seattle 3-0. Pittsburgh, my Steelers and Justin Fields 3-0, right? Your Steelers too with no Russ Wilson. Biggest surprise: Seattle, Minnesota, Pittsburgh.
Oh, they're all surprises too, but I have to say it's the Minnesota Vikings and Kevin O'Connell's doing a great job in terms of that team. Just they bought into it, and he's rebuilt Sam Darnold. He's not trying to do too much,
Nope.
leaning on the weapons around him, particularly Aaron Jones, who looked great down the stretch for the Packers last year into the playoffs. And but you wondered, why would Green Bay just get rid of him? And he seems like he's got a lot of left tank in the tank running the football. Offensive line doing a good job protecting Darnold. And then they have Justin Jefferson, the most explosive, most highest paid player in the non-quarterback out there. So this team's hitting on all cylinders. And then you also got tip your cap to Brian Flores. He's done a great job with
Good
that
point.
defense. That defense harassed CJ Stroud. I haven't seen him play like that. I know he's a body of work is pretty small, but
Right.
he did not look comfortable in the pocket. threw a lot of interceptions. I think they had about 5 sacks in the game and just constant pressure on him. So I would go with the Vikings as my main surprise, but Pittsburgh and Seattle, they've done a great job, but they've kind of done it kind of, they're winning ugly, particularly the Steelers, and you just wonder how long that's going to take. But their defense is ranked #1 in the NFL.
Yeah, Tomlin didn't really say that, hey, we're not going to name Fields the de facto starter, but the fact remains he is. And with Tua down in Miami and then Thompson getting hurt, you would think maybe make a call to Pittsburgh for Russell Wilson. I know he's still dealing with a calf injury, but Miami and Tampa Bay and Jacksonville, not a good weekend for the Florida teams. Tampa Bay, I was pretty shocked. Baker coming back down to earth. Miami with no Tua, you kind of saw it coming, even though they put up 3 points. Um, was this kind of a hiccup for Tampa Bay and the bad Baker Mayfield, or do you see this potentially be a lingering problem, giving up 26 to rookie Bo Nix?
Yeah, it was crazy, Q, because there were 8 underdog teams that won outright this weekend, and probably none more surprising than Denver Broncos. You have Bo Nix coming in there, the young quarterback. He did a great job taking care of the football. But the thing is, Tampa Bay Bucks, they just disappointed at home. They had a lot of injuries. Vita Vea didn't play, and Antoine Winfield
Yep.
Jr. So but it just never got on track for them. And you got to say, Denver came to play, particularly Sean Payton. He knows that team from playing in NFC South so many years. And Nick's just looked comfortable in the pocket, getting the ball out of his hands quickly. And that defense still had a lot of teeth. So it was a surprise, but good win for them. It also shows, though, Q, the parity around the National Football League.
Yes.
There's 15 teams that are 1-2 at this point.
That's a great point. Lloyd Vance joining us Tuesday edition of BYP with Q. Rich Quinones here, powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Check the show notes. First purchase BYP20. The promo code gets you 20% off. Also powered by Play It Again Sports. There are some teams that I thought desperation time and they couldn't back it up. I don't want to spend too much time on the Cowboys because they're just a bad team right now, but the Ravens really could have put up 35, 40 points. What surprised me, the most alarming game maybe over the weekend, because now the injuries are starting to mount up for San Francisco and they lose to the Rams 27-24. Purdy's banged up, McCaffrey's banged up. They got Williams banged up. I mean, what's your level? 10 being, oh my goodness, this is not good. A level of concern right now, 1 to 10. If you're a 49ers fan, all of a sudden they're 1-2.
Yeah, Q, you definitely got to don't worry about that Super Bowl hangover if you're a Niners fan. And Purdy played pretty well in this game. He's efficient, and particularly Juwan Jennings. He had one of the games for the ages. He had 3 touchdowns, looked very dynamic. But the thing is, you saw Ayuk start getting angry on the sidelines about not getting the football. You talk about all the injuries that are happening with the team, particularly they didn't have Kittle out there, their security blanket. Their running back Mason was a little bit more
Yep.
bottled up than he had in the past, and they were able to move that ball on their defense. And their defense has always been their calling card. And you got Stafford, who has all those injuries, and he still found a way. And the biggest thing, Q, though, is special teams. The Niners special teams had a lot of problems this game. They had a fake punt run on them. They missed the field goal, and then they had that huge return at the end to
Horrible.
win the game for the Rams. So a lot to worry about for the Niners. I'm not pushing the panic button, but they definitely are not looking like the stalwarts we thought they were in that division.
No, special teams. I mean, we saw, right, the Giants opening kickoff botch. We saw missed field goals. Then you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, I said this the other day on the drive. We needed that gut check win by the Eagles, but you got to call it the way it is. Saquon Barkley is starting to bail out Sirianni and Jalen Hurts like Brian Westbrook used to bail out Donovan McNabb. I mean, you feed him, and then he breaks one for 65. You have the 2-3 Saint defenders crashing into each other, and Goddard breaks free. It was an ugly game. The defense did their job, but man, Sirianni, again, with some of these fourth down decisions, want to go for a 60-yarder. You don't want to go for chip shots. I mean, it's going to bite them in the butt going forward. Now, listen, they're 2-1, but if you're an Eagles fan, I'm sorry. You don't walk away from that game confident because your quarterback is still making boneheaded decisions.
Q, it's the same as we talked about with them last season. They won, but you remember they were winning all those games,
Yep.
and some people were trying to say they're #1 team in NFL. Well, when you look with your eyes though at the whole game, which I watched, they have some deficiencies, and they overcame their coach, as you talked about his questionable decisions, and I'm hearing he's overruling Kellen Moore and Fangio. He wants to be the CEO type, but he, if he was the CEO, sell that stock. You know what I mean? Because this guy, he may make all the faces and the histrionics and all that stuff. He does not have control of this team. I don't care what he says.
Agree.
There's still things you see in the game that make you wonder who's in control. And yes, Fangio put his defense put together a great effort in terms of that defensive line. You saw Jalen Carter come forward. He finally played really well. Jordan Davis as well. Kobe Dean caused a big turnover. But you're right. Saquon is the great elixir for this team. 147 yards on 17 carries, 2 touchdowns. He had 4 catches as well, and that big 2-point conversion. He's just electric. But the thing is, Q, you wonder, is he going to be able to stay healthy? He's getting a lot of touches, and you know it from his former Giants days. He hasn't played more than 14 games, I think, since his rookie season. So you got to worry about that. A
Yep.
host of other injuries to the Eagles, particularly Smith and their 2 offensive linemen, Lane Johnson, got all banged up in this one. And then let's not forget Jalen Hurts making bad decisions with the football. He's got to do better.
Yeah, I agree. Tuesday edition of BYP. Rich Quinones here. Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us. Host Lloyd Vance's Insider Football, Monday to 8 to 9, Monday 8 to 9, with bunch of guests, great content on Sports Radio 1029 FM. The game. By the way, favorites 26-18 over the weekend. You had some of these pick'ems. You had the dogs leading 24-19 to 1 ATS 55% clip. I thought also too, what's really bizarre over the weekend is that if I were to ask you right now, how many quarterbacks do you think have thrown for more than 300 yards this season?
I don't know how many, but I think it's less than 10. And I know the only quarterback for throw 300 yards and 3 TDs, and you may need to mail an apology to him, Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle. I mean, he came out and he was slinging it, man. You talking about an underdog. The Raiders are kicking themselves in the butt.
Yeah.
Carolina wins 36-22, and they were a 6-point dog. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. So you got Dalton, Burrow last night, and Prescott and Burrow in a losing effort. Maybe there's something to be said where Andy Dalton, the water pistol, comes off the sofa. Same weapon, same offense, same team, and Bryce Young can't do that. I'm just saying. Are patients wearing thin in Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson?
Well, Q, he's very inconsistent. This is another one. They won the game 21-16, but he missed a lot of throws. He's only a 50% passer. They'd be smart, Shane Steichen, to kind of lean on Taylor, who's one of the best backs in the league.
Yep.
Their defense still has some teeth left in it with DeForest Buckner and those guys. The thing is, on the other side, the Bears, I think they got problems, Q. They cannot run the football with authority and maybe like what we always talk about, is Eberflus and Shane Waldron, who brought in
They're
this
not going to
offense is
last.
not, yeah, they're not going to last. Caleb Williams be there, but they threw the ball 52
You
times in
can't
this
do
one.
that. You can't do
And
that. You
and
can't
yeah,
have that kid do
he
it.
was frazzled. He was frazzled, and they were coming after him, and he's still trying to do all the things he did at USC, where he was running around making plays. But you got to get the ball in your hands in NFL, and he's still learning that.
DeAndre Swift had 13 touches for 20 yards. I mean, we talked about DeAndre Swift not being utilized the right way in Philadelphia. I mean, this is a guy that had 1,000 yards last year. He's got 66 total yards right now for Chicago. I mean, so it looks like Philly used him the right way. I mean, if you're the Bears, you got to get him involved in the offense. No reason Williams should be dropping back 52 times. So he pretty much had a bunch of everything, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. Special teams, gaffes, turnovers. We've seen it. Guys getting injured left and right. The quarterback play is down. I believe there's parity in the league. Kansas City's a flawed team. Everyone's talking about Kansas City 3-0, getting bailed out by the refs, and a lot of people are keying on Travis Kelce. And it's pretty simple. You're going out with one of the most famous, if not the most famous person, musician, artist, famous face in the world. You're doing Netflix, you're doing commercials, you're coming off a Super Bowl, you're doing the book appearances, you're doing the tour, you're traveling, you're going to be out of friggin' shape. Like, it doesn't take a talking head on national TV or a rocket scientist to sit there and say, why does this guy look miserable? Why is this guy tired? Because he's got other things going on. With that being said, if you're not all in, then retire. Retire. His production is beyond down. So same person, not the same body, and also mentally, he's just not there.
Yeah, there's something amiss with this offense. They're winning. And everybody's going to say, yeah, it's the Jordan rules where Patrick Mahomes is getting special treatment with the refs and all that. I'm not buying into that. I think there's a good team. They find ways to win. It's like the old Yankees and the Patriots when they're on their roll. The next man steps up and they get it done. But I do agree with you. Kelsey is not the focus of this offense anymore. And you wonder, is it because he's just not focused on football anymore? He's got a lot going on. He's 34, 35 years old, and you just wonder how much he has left in the tank. And Rashee Rice is their main guy. So if I'm playing the Chiefs, I'm trying to cover him and try to take him out of the game plan because now not having Pacheco, you wonder about that rushing game. Yes, Steele kind of stepped in there, and Piron had a couple nice plays here and there, but this offense is not as explosive. The crazy thing is, their calling card is their defense with
That's right.
Spagnuolo and Bolton and all those guys. So they did a great job. They're just stacking W's and moving on, but there's a lot you got to think about as they move it along in the season.
And also, too, you know, the issue is that his whole life is a photo op right now. I mean, it's drastically, he can't go anywhere, right? And sometimes that might weigh on you, but hey, that's what happens. You're dating a superstar, right? I mean, that's just, it is what it is. All right. Kind of a look at what we saw over week 3. So with that, game balls lackey for week 3. I'm gonna say a game ball. Man, how do you not give it to JD last night? How do you not give it to the rook Jayden Daniels? The hell with Andy Dalton. Give it to Daniels on the road.
It's crazy, Q, because I did my show last night. I gave out the game ball, and the way he played, I was like, oh, I probably should have waited, but
Who'd you
I
give it
gave
to
it to
originally?
the Ravens running back, Derrick Henry. He just carried the load against the
Yeah,
Dallas
good
Cowboys.
call.
25 rushes for 151, 6 yards per carry, 2 TDs. I mean, he even had a nice catch of 23 yards in this one. He was just dominant, and he had only had 32 touches going into this week, and it was a must-win situation
Yeah.
for the Ravens. And they beat up the Cowboys physically, 247 yards rushing as a team. So I gave it to Derrick Henry. Big win for them, but they have another one this week that's huge. They're going to be playing Buffalo on
Yep.
Sunday Night Football.
Giants get Dallas at home. They're already 4.5, 5 point dogs to the Cowboys. I think they haven't won in about 13 out of their last 14 tries. All right, Lackey, since your show is 8 to 9, you can't have Trevor Lawrence. Man, I'll tell you, the Raiders stunk up the joint, man.
You're going on the right path, though.
AFC team.
AFC team. I mean, I'll give you a hint. This will give it away. Bad quarterback play. So you're talking about all these bad quarterbacks, and this guy, I think, may be the worst quarterback in the National Football League. I don't even know how he's playing,
Oh, you
and
can't
they.
give it to Miami. You're going to give it to Skylar Thompson?
No, it's not Skylar Thompson. It's Will Levis for the Tennessee
Oh,
Titans.
well, I
He
mean,
is
you can give him,
abysmal.
yeah, you can give him the Lackey. That's, I mean, look, man, the kid's good looking, looks like a fitness model. Maybe that should be the niche, but he might be just football IQ. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't reside upstairs in his head. He's not a smart quarterback. And yeah, man, Titans, that's the bed you make. You
Yeah,
got
and
to
it's
lie in it
interesting.
now.
They trade away, you know, Malik for a bag of balls to the Packers, and he went back and he gave it to him. And on the other side, yeah, Will Levis 26 to 34, 260, but he had 2 more interceptions, a pick six. He was sacked 8 times in this one. And Callahan, who's a brand new coach there, you can see his patience is running thin, and maybe it's Mason Rudolph time. That's their backup. Give him a try, but I definitely had to give Levis as the lackey for this week.
Unbelievable. You can almost pick these guys week to week. I mean, it's just a bad play around the NFL. But 3 weeks already in the books, and some teams they might have a season. They might have a season. They picked up some wins. I think, and I know we got a moment or two, but I'd be shocked. Time's running out for Doug Peterson. Time's running out for Mike McCarthy, right? I mean, it's just you kind of see the handwriting on the wall. And some of these other coaches made some really boneheaded. Harbaugh made some boneheaded decisions with Baltimore. They should have kept, going with the offense and kept their foot on the gas. Um, it's just these coaches overthink themselves. Sirianni as well. So I'm telling you, it's getting late early for some of these teams already as we start to approach week 4. We will go through the gamut again on Friday's edition of The Drive with Q from 4 to 6 on Sports Radio 1029 FM, The Game, Coastal Sports Network. Lloyd and I will also try to squeeze in another abbreviated edition of BYP as we take a look at week 4 betting lines. We are always powered by good friends at Play It Again Sports, fresh roasted coffee. Use the link below, the affiliate link. And also your first purchase, BYP20, save 20% off. It is always a pleasure, my friend. I appreciate you jumping on board a Tuesday edition of BYP for a couple moments.
All right, Q, talk to you later.